If for some reason you forget to do that, I may interrupt and say, please introduce yourself. I'm not trying to be rude, it's just what we'll do. Any questions for me? All right, sounds good. We'll try, and I want to be respectful of people's deadlines. I know there's a lot of newscasts that start right at 4 o'clock, so we're going to try and get this going sooner than later. All right, sounds good, guys. Thank you.
What's up, Al?
How you doing, man?
Not too bad. Hey, good to see you. Good to see you.
I was telling somebody the other, I can't hold on to a job. If I can get staff to join me, right? All this is really just a recruiting thing for when I put on my own PR.
Exactly.
So if I can take your business cards, I'll
Yeah, but then you're gonna retire.
I'm gonna be tired again. That's all that means. That's all. How's it going, Ron? How are you? So, it's easiest to tell you that I'm the new Bruce Gordon.
Was it actually not you? Are you talking about?
I haven't since October. Yeah, she's not doing a very good job.
No, I just like, where is he now? Getting some new Bruce.
So I went up there and did stories on some anniversary, and it was obviously the first I.
I'll tell you what.
So there's just like so little information. It's like if the parents didn't have anything to do with it.
6 months, but I think I aged 6 years.
And so I did some kind of request because there was one suspect
6
who
months.
was
And
a
you know
sex
what?
offender,
Really,
child sex
really
offender.
good time.
He lived a block away.
I came back really committed. I came here. Came a week at a time. You know, John Harrington was
And they were
He
questioning
was my
him
chief
about
over
it.
at Metro Training.
Yep.
But then, so I did a data
Tom
request.
Smith
and they
was
actually
assistant
sent me
commissioner. He was my chief in St. Paul.
Yeah.
For a data request.
Assistant Commissioner Lino was here.
And
I worked with him.
a lot of stuff
We
that
were just
probably
getting band,
technically.
we were getting band back together. It was coming home.
We're not kidnapping with this girl.
And I'll tell you that.
And it seemed to like years in foundation.
What a good human.
Yeah.
Dude.
Because he would be like the suspect.
It's been all over. He would tell you, you know, you're at.
But I think he drove out to one of the
Let's talk.
mines and kind of like told himself all the parts of there, so when they wondered
He was
if
an
he
interim chief, Stillwater for a while. Said he'd break there was a lot of years.
I shut that fan off, so it should be a little bit better. Check 1, 2, check, check, check. Okay. It might get a little warmer, but it'll keep it better audio for us.
And Chisholm had a couple of like
All right.
cold cases.
I know him, but I just couldn't place.
Yeah, they actually saw
Where I
one of them.
come across it.
Emily?
Yes.
Yeah, and her nickname is Diener.
How are you? You know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I ask you every time, how do I pronounce it?
It's okay.
Jehomes. I just do my best not to be.
You're good. I know, it's fine. Yeah, you too. So what's this, your show?
Don't worry, I got your number, I'll call you.
No, I was just curious.
No, I'm not.
I'm just kidding.
This is my bad.
No.
Happy to be here. I've got
She ran, but I think the fundraising thing was the cost of emergency. So they didn't know if it was.
They have a full-time job covering for it.
Yeah, see you later.
Take it easy.
So I did something on the 5th, 2020.
I was trying to.
And it was really hard to get the guys to do another interview, but he did finally do it.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to think if there was, oh yeah, so I did include the thing about the sex offender guy. So it's clear as the way street, he was trying to call it child porn. Definite. Well, but it could be.
What?
No.
So then.
See, the thing is, you come late, you don't get, I talked to this guy, first come, first serve. Exactly.
Oh yeah, but the dad said he believes she's still alive, so.
All that way.
But I remember, so the police chief, only talked like kind of off the record, but I
All
did an
about
interview with either the sheriff or like the retired sheriff. And
Every day.
they were, the sheriff's office was like very much still thinking he was a child porn guy. Kind of like, did not investigate him well enough, and then he killed himself, and now it's too late.
Target.
Oh, yeah. so this DNA, the company that did the family tree stuff for the police, they made it,
I think Brittany said that her and Ben
like a
and
mugshot of what they thought based on the DNA.
I asked her, yeah, I asked her if she had any questions for us, and she said that she was on the.
She's just like very.
I know, I don't know if it was worth.
Yeah, see, he looks like a creep, but then like the mugshot looked like
Well,
basically
they
a
showed
version
us,
of that guy, composites guy.
But it wasn't a long time ago, right?
Oh, no.
They made it on their computer. They're like, this is probably what he looked like, and they take it. And then when you put it next to him.
But that's what he looks like in 2000.
Yes, yeah, that's him now. And then he had some disgusting excuse, like, victim blaming, like, he was. No, he went to high school with the victim's kids.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
He was only like 18 when it happened.
So I'm gonna have two cameras.
So that was.
Sounds like this is string like the Jacob Early guy.
Yeah, he does.
But this is gonna be isolated strictly on what we have here. So. Jacob's getting kind of a award-winning piece, it's game shoot.
You're on and I'll put all the.
Yeah, I know, I have like a Dropbox folder that I just keep them all in. So I can see what computer that I'm at. Okay, so that's his high school yearbook. Okay. And then,
Oh, that's, yeah.
it's pretty damn good
Okay, yeah.
when you consider that they don't know what.
Yeah,
he
they
looks
should have
like.
just given him like a mullet.
I don't think it was real.
That's what he looked like when he was arrested.
Yep. Did they have any idea?
Was he ever suspect?
No,
there?
never. Nope. He was a guy that lived just outside town on the same.
And he stuck around.
Yep, never left. And the murder just absolutely ruined Emily's family. She had two kids that were like young adults, like late teens, early
Oh, so
20s.
she was out like older.
Yeah, I mean,
So
she
that's probably
was in her
why they didn't-
40s, late 40s maybe. She was probably a young mom with the kids. They had a guy that they suspected forever. He was like a guy who wanted to just, she had him in the friend zone, and they always thought, and I think he even was in her house earlier this day. It's like trying to convince her to come out. And then, so it was like this alternative suspect, probably had his life really twisted, everybody suspected him. In a small town like that, yeah. And Chisholm's like 2,000 or 3,000 people, isn't it? It's a tiny town.
It's a suburb of Tipping.
Yeah.
Doesn't change my trajectory, but it do feel bad for
Yeah, so to have this like cold case and then also have the missing girl cold case.
And they're from the same decade?
I think Leanna Warner was, this one was 86,
Oh, 86, yeah.
2002 or something.
That's not even that long. I think it sounded, for how it was last year, it seems like.
Yeah. May have been even later than that, though. 2003.
Did I find it? No, I didn't.
Do you love those phone calls?
Sure do. Where are you? Is there a...
Yeah.
We don't have to hurry. Yeah. I would like to be ready.
He's like, oh, no, we met at this rally. My God. Over at this table. How low are you?
No,
It was the Nicholas Circus murder trial here in April 21st. The better ones that they've actually done. And I don't say that just because I want to, but I mean, but it also.
Thank you, everyone. Are we ready? I know some folks, we had some latecomers here. Thank you very much. I'm Howie Padilla. I'm the Director of Communications for the Department of Public Safety. Appreciate you all being here today. I know there's a lot of questions, and we have a lot too. Today you'll hear from. Thank you, everyone. Today you'll hear from the Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson. Again, the spelling of that last name is. I'm the Director of Communications for the Department. Boy, as much as people think I like hearing my own voice, that was not great. Bob Jacobson, Jacobson. Following Commissioner Jacobson, you'll hear from Colonel Matt Langer, 2 T's, Langer. He's the Chief of the State Patrol. As a couple of reminders, please, as you introduce, now that you've met them and you know them, as you introduce your first question, please remember to state your name and your news agency. Doesn't have to be if you have more than one question after that. Secondly, as a reminder, I'll just tell you that, as you know and as has been repeated often, there's still an ongoing investigation here. As the questions afterwards, if they get to be too specific too many times on that, we'll go ahead and end things. So that will be the process. Following Colonel Langer's comments, you'll be able to see the videos of which we're speaking and of which there have been many requests. And with that, Commissioner, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Howie. Hello, thank you for joining us today. I'm Bob Jacobson, and I serve as the Commissioner of the state's Department of Public Safety. First, let me offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Mr. Cobb. The Cobb family has experienced an immense loss and tragedy. Anytime a loved one is no longer with us, it's incredibly difficult and shocking. But today I'm here with Colonel Langer to share the video of this incident. I will also reiterate that the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension Force Investigations Unit is working to gather the facts of this incident, and it is a top priority, but it will take time. As is their usual process, once they complete their initial investigation, they will release additional details about this incident, including the names of the people involved, a more detailed description of the incident and how it unfolded, and any evidence recovered at the scene. So more information will be released by the end of the week by the BCA. But today, we will share video with the public. I now turn to Colonel Matt Langer, the Chief of the State Patrol, for a few remarks before we share that video. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. My name is Matt Langer. I have the honor and privilege of serving as Chief Colonel of the Minnesota State Patrol. A lot has transpired in the past couple of days, and one of my opening remarks to echo the sentiment from the Commissioner is when I think about everything that I've seen and been through in the past couple of days in my job, the one way that I would classify it is this is just a tremendously sad situation. It's sad from every perspective and for everyone involved. The State Patrol is committed to doing our very best to be responsive and transparent, while also honoring the investigative process. As you probably noticed yesterday, we committed to releasing the body-worn camera video as rapidly as we could, but only after the family was allowed an opportunity to view it first, which is exactly what the Commissioner and I spent this afternoon doing. We'll be showing you a video of the incident, squad, and body-worn camera, along with one still photo, and I'll offer a few facts of the case that we can release today. Please remember this is still an open and active investigation, and many of the answers we simply don't have yet. And the Minnesota State Patrol is not the investigating agency, so questions about the investigation are not things that I'm aware of. I'll do my best to answer questions, and it's my spirit generally in a news conference to be very helpful. And I'm predicting today there will be an awful lot of I can't talk about that. I don't know. It's part of the investigation. I don't have the answer. Here's what I can tell you about the incident. Just before 1:50 a.m. early Monday morning, a State Patrol trooper was monitoring traffic coming out of downtown on Interstate 94. That would be a normal practice for our troopers who work overnight hours in their search for impaired drivers and watching for traffic violations. While observing traffic, the trooper saw a Ford Fusion without any taillights on, traveling northbound on Interstate 94 near Lowry Avenue in Minneapolis. The trooper pulled this vehicle over, and during the course of that investigation, that traffic stop, troopers learned that the driver was actually wanted by law enforcement in Ramsey County in connection with a felony order for protection violation. That certainly prolonged the interaction roadside as the troopers worked to validate and confirm that that want on this individual was still in effect and that they had the right person. As they worked to detain the driver to get him out of the vehicle, the driver refused to exit. Troopers were attempting to remove the driver from the vehicle verbally and then moved in as he drove away. A State Patrol trooper discharged their firearm during the course of this incident. Life-saving measures were immediately provided by the troopers until emergency services arrived. 3 State Patrol troopers were placed on administrative leave, which is normal and part of State Patrol policy. We're going to start by showing a still image of the vehicle that went by the trooper. Just so you can see, I think it's important to show this was the first image that a still image from the video that depicts what the trooper saw as the vehicle went by. As we move into the 4 videos that I'm going to show, I want to preface that to say I'm not going to talk during the videos. I'm not going to narrate. I think it's my belief that the videos should play on their own and people should develop their own thoughts about the video rather than be perceived or trying to inject some sort of narrative over the top of the videos. So I'll let the videos play. The Commissioner and I can stand for any questions and answer those that we can for a while here. There's 3 body-worn camera videos that you'll see, and then there's 1 squad video that we're prepared to also show today. The first video is the trooper's body-worn camera behind the driver's side of the vehicle that was pulled over. Ask that that plays.
I-94 from Dowling Avenue, going Frank 402. You guys have a car stop for 4 seconds. Car stop for a second.
Hey, stay with me, man. Hey, stay with me. Stay with me, man. Hey.
So I'll stop that video there. There are other videos will show a similar sequence in terms of timing all the way to the end, and you'll be able to see as they try to immediately pull the driver out of the vehicle and start to render aid. All these videos, by the way, will be uploaded and available for download later this afternoon. The second video shows the trooper's body-worn camera on the passenger side of the vehicle.
Every time y'all talk about, you need some stuff to talk about, y'all continue to jump on the road. No, can I call out to anyone? Hey, this ain't no funny shit. And when y'all talking about this shit with Terry Young, hold on, is it a warrant? Hold on. Hold on, cause y'all finna do some funny shit. Y'all keeping it buck with me, bro. But if y'all finna do some funny shit with me, y'all can tell me right now. So I can call my attorney. Hang on, please. Why? See, y'all keeping it buck with me. Y'all my head like. Okay, we passed that for what we have. So where are we at then? But when you say step out of the vehicle, you go straight to me, and he also.
The third video that we'll show is the trooper's body-worn camera who is on the position on the driver's side of the vehicle that was pulled over.
Yeah, like I said, they want them hooked up and brought down, so I'm just gonna go with driver's side approach, and hey, it's nice to meet you. He's just how you doing, my man? I'm gonna need you to step out, though. We're gonna have some stuff to talk about, okay? We just have some stuff to talk about. Somebody's...
Every time y'all talk about,
Alright,
we
come
have
on.
some stuff to talk about, y'all continue to jump on the way.
Okay, we have some stuff to talk about. Ramsey County, we just have to have some stuff.
Hey, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, cause I'll call my attorney right now. Hey, this ain't no funny shit.
Okay.
If y'all talking about that shit with Terry Young,
But you have to step out, okay?
hold on, is it a warrant?
No, it's not a law. I need you to step out.
Hold on.
I'll explain it all out when we get out of the car.
Hold on, cause y'all been doing some funny shit. Y'all keep it a buck with me, bro. But if y'all been doing some funny shit with me, y'all can tell me right now. So I can call my attorney.
Hand me the keys.
Hang my keys.
Hand me the keys to the vehicle.
Why?
Hand me the keys to the vehicle.
Why?
Just hand me the key.
Can y'all keep it a buck with me, bro? Y'all pull me over my headlights.
Okay. Yep. We already passed that. So like I said, you need to step out of the vehicle.
Okay, we passed that, so where we at then?
Okay. You need to step out of the vehicle,
So where are we at then?
and I'm gonna explain it all when we step out.
But when you say step out of the vehicle, you go
Yes,
straight to
this
me,
is not a law.
and these are so.
This, hey, man, you've been support. Get out the door now! Ah, he's got fucking dragged. I need leave a couple. Yeah, swing around the other side. Give him cover.
And we'll stop that video. The sequence is the same. They pull the individual out and try life-saving efforts. The fourth and final video we're prepared to show today is one of the troopers, their squad dash video, their dash camera, so it provides a little more context versus the body-worn cameras. Not to get into the technology, but the audio follows the camera. So in this case, the audio is obviously different because it's coming from the squad camera, which is, you know, at a different location than the body-worn cameras. So let this video also play. on the same point there where they begin to render aid as soon as they possibly can. It goes without saying, but for really difficult videos to watch, I've seen them a number of times. It doesn't get any easier at all. As someone who cares about other human beings and has the job that I do, it's not easy. Difficult is an understatement. That said, I mentioned I won't be able to answer a ton of questions, particularly those about the investigation, but both the commissioner and I are willing to do what we can for a while here to help answer questions you have in the immediate aftermath of viewing the video.
John Pan with the Minnesota Spokesman Reporter. It seems, so I'm trying to understand, is this standard operating procedure for your troopers to ask people who are wanted for warrants to step out of a vehicle? Why didn't your troopers just tell them what he was wanted for and allow him to remain in the vehicle as he was asking for?
Yeah, there's different ways to look at that issue, but when I witness or observe the conduct of the troopers and the conversation they're having, I wouldn't say it's out of the ordinary for their interactions with people. They simply asked him to get out of the car, and they had lawful reason to do so.
Right, but why couldn't your troopers just to tell him what the reason was for, and allow him to remain in the vehicle?
Yeah, no, it's a question that certainly will come out as part of the investigation. I haven't visited with the troopers about what they were thinking or why they did what they did, so I can't speak to what they were thinking.
Jennifer Merrily with WCCO. It was hard to tell where the shot came from. Can you tell us which camera or which trooper fired the shots?
Yeah, I want to be careful not to get into the investigative side, but the video of the trooper who fired rounds is the one who was at the passenger side.
Brittany Erman, Channel 5. How many times was he shot?
I don't have that confirmed, sorry.
Was he armed? Was there a weapon found?
Another question for the BCA as part of their investigation.
Just real quickly, folks, just as a reminder, as I've mentioned a couple of different times, there's an independent investigation going on. A lot of the questions that you guys have, we have those same questions. If we continue to get into the questions, and it's not out of disrespect or anything, I used to be a reporter and understand the need for these questions to be asked, but there are questions that will be answered by the investigation. If I just don't want to have the colonel or the commissioner saying we can't answer that because of the investigation for the next several minutes.
You mentioned this is Lou Raguse from Carroll Avenues. The reason that they wanted to take him out was because of this domestic abuse violation, but was it a warrant, or can you just kind of clarify what this was exactly?
Yeah, so, and I should have repeated the question for those that are online, I'm sorry. So the question is about was this a warrant or not? It was not a warrant. It was a pickup and hold for a felony order for protection violation that originated from the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office.
And then so just a follow-up on that, is that something that would appear like on the computers, or can you tell us that from the trooper's point of view?
The question relates to how does the trooper become aware of that information? It absolutely does come back. So in the event that a driver who's the registered owner has that pickup and hold, when the trooper runs their license plate, part of the information that comes back would include that information. Similar to a warrant, but unique because it's different than a warrant, is the need to confirm that pickup and hold with the originating agency. And so that was part of what the troopers were doing that took some time with the traffic stop before we showed the deadly force encounter here. But that's exactly what they did, is confirm that this is still an active pickup and hold, that the agency who desires this individual be brought into custody still believes they have probable cause, and that it is the correct person.
That's the reference to Ramsey County that they made?
The question is that the reference to Ramsey County? Yes, that's where this pickup and hold originated from, was the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. So their confirmation would go back to that originating agency.
Matt Sepik again with NPR News. Sorry, I didn't identify myself before. Why don't we hear the gunshots on the body camera, but we do hear them on the squad camera?
The question is a very good one. Why don't we hear the gunshots on the body-worn camera? I don't have an answer for you on that. We are equally perplexed. I suspect, and I'm speculating, that technicians or the technical engineers at Axon would be better to answer that question. We live in a world where we watch a video and we see it and we hear it and then we think, yep, that's what happened. And for me in this case, it just gives me pause to say, why don't we hear the gunshots on the body-worn camera, but yet we hear them very clearly on the squad video. So part of the BCA's investigation will surely, based on evidence and all the work that they do, try to line up everything down to a fraction of a second. But one of the body-worn cameras in particular, oddly, it doesn't record the gunshots, even though it's recording all of the other ambient noise. One of the other body-worn cameras captures what I would categorize as a subdued gunshot, and then the squad video with the window down clearly captures gunshots. So that was something that we were initially perplexed by, and we still are.
How long?
Carolyn, obviously the BCA is investigating this, but it's under the Department of Public Safety. How can the public trust that this is going to be a transparent investigation? Would you consider having an outside agency look at it?
Yeah, I'll let the commissioner answer that, and I'm happy to also answer.
Again, just to repeat the question, I think in essence is that the BCA is part of a state agency, part of the Department of Public Safety. The Minnesota State Patrol is also part of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. How would an investigative process work between those two agencies, and does that create public trust? I will let you know that obviously the Minnesota State Patrol and the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are separate law enforcement agencies. They act independently, they do independent work. They both have their chief law enforcement officers, Colonel Matthew Langer, who is here today, and Superintendent Drew Evans, who is with the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. So they both have their law enforcement agencies and their duties. Anytime that there is an officer-involved shooting in the state of Minnesota, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension typically is asked to perform those investigations. We have a specific unit within the Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions, the Forces Investigation Unit, which has been supported and funded through direct legislative priorities to go ahead and to be the go-to agency for law enforcement, officer-involved shootings or use of force shootings or in-custody deaths. That has worked very well for a number of years. In fact, it was just recently funded in the legislature to continue with that Force Investigation Unit. Through the creation of that process, this scenario was contemplated, and through that work, this is just the way that it was contemplated that it would occur, that the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the Force Investigative Unit, which does not train with or have regular contact with any other law enforcement agencies, including the State Patrol, would conduct those investigations. It will be separate and independent from the Minnesota State Patrol. And as mentioned today, my time spent with Colonel Langer is really specific to spending time with the family and walking through the video with you. When I spend time with Superintendent Evans, that will be updates with the investigative process. But they are an independent process, independent agency, and I don't provide direction and control. They do their investigation, get the final product, and then when that final product is completed, there's full transparency. It's available to the public. It will go to the county attorney's office. In this case, it would be Mary Moriarty of the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. So again, we think that process worked and does work, and we've done that several times.
Tim Harlow with the Star Tribune. Matt, this is a question for you. We had a shot fired into the hip. Can you just talk a little bit about what is the procedure or protocol? Did this rise to a use of force level based on the standards of the patrol?
Yeah, the question is how it relates to the use of force level for the State Patrol. For sure. So we have very clear policies all available on our website. This very clearly meets the threshold of the use of deadly force. And so that triggers protocols within the organization, including a critical incident review. Downstream, where we take a look at this incident from beginning to end to uncover any answers that we might want to come forward with related to training, related to equipment, related to supervisory notification, related to protocol. Our goal is for these things to never happen. And so when they do happen, we shift really quickly into why did it happen, and is there absolutely anything we can do in the future to make sure it doesn't happen again? So that critical incident review process is part of the puzzle of trying to determine that, and that augments the incredibly anticipated investigation from the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension too, that once things are done also helps us to make decisions internally about what, if anything, should change.
We'll take one more.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that statement. When you said meets the threshold of use of deadly force, what did you mean by that?
Well, the question is what I meant by the answer to the meet the threshold of the use of deadly force. But firing a service weapon in the direction of another human being is very clearly the use of deadly force. So for us, that would trigger that standard within our policy and protocol. I apologize if I didn't answer the question that you were asking, but that's how I interpreted it.
Can you say at what point that threshold was met? At what point the threshold was met that we saw in the video?
Yeah, that is way too deep into the investigation and what the individual troopers were thinking, and I simply don't know what they were thinking.
Thanks, guys.
How is DPS training your officers to de-escalate situations like this?
Yep.
there Howie, is there a way you
Sure.
can re-roll at least the squad video? Because we didn't get any audio feed. I know you're going to be releasing the file.
Let me see how long it'll take.
Wait, can you
Yep.
route it through the Maltbox?
So what I will do
Okay.
is, let me see how long it will take us to get you that file. If
Okay.
that's more expedient than doing this, I would choose to do that instead.
All right.
Can I ask you one follow-up about
Sure.
the
Can I go do that first and I'll be right back, I promise. I promise, I'll be right back.
I do,
No,
yeah.
that's what I tried to finish. Like, you know, loud, like, my 3 or 4 books. Right on. Feels good to say that I can actually serve.
So folks, I know we're expecting around 2:30. Actually, I think we're gonna be closer than I expected. So, we like that. Frankly, I think there's a couple things going on. One is, Colonel, as we mentioned yesterday in the news release, the commitment was that we wanted to give the family an opportunity to review the video. That has just wrapped up not that long ago. We're giving the Colonel and the Commissioner a moment to take a breath. They'll be here in just a few minutes, not a few minutes, they'll be here in a little bit. So just a real quick on the rundown. First, you'll hear from Commissioner Jacobson, Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson, Jacobson. Yeah, that's right. Jacobson. Following that, you'll hear from Colonel Matt Langer, Langer, Matt with 2 T's. He is the Chief of the State Patrol. Following that, you'll view, and the Colonel will speak to the videos and kind of what they show. What he's not going to do is narrate. So he'll speak, we'll show videos. I believe there's a total of about 4 videos. We're looking at about, I believe somebody said total maybe 12 minutes roughly. And so you'll be able to see some of that. I think the videos will show that some of the things people have seen on social media, and this shouldn't be a surprise, it's not entirely accurate, but that will show up then. We'll take a few questions afterwards. When I say a few, we're happy to try and answer questions. The reason I say it's a few because there is the ongoing BCA investigation. And so if questions come up repeatedly, what I don't want is to have people in a situation where all they can say is it's part of the investigation, it's part of the investigation, it's part of the investigation. If we start to go down that 2 or 3 questions, we can only make the assumption that all other questions have been exhausted, and we'll go ahead and call it at that point. Any questions? Oh, the other thing is, please don't have to do it every single time. You'll know who these folks are. Can you please introduce yourself and your news organization before your first question? That would be great. And I'm not trying to be rude. If you guys have done this a long time, if for some reason you forget to do that, I may interrupt and say, please introduce yourself. I'm not trying to be rude, it's just what we'll do. Any questions for me? All right, sounds good. We'll try, and I want to be respectful of people's deadlines. I know there's a lot of newscasts that start right at 4 o'clock, so we're going to try and get this going sooner than later. All right, sounds good, guys. Thank you.
What's up now?
How you doing, man?
Not too bad. Hey, good to see you. Good to see you.
I was telling somebody the other, I can't hold on to a job. If I can get staff to join me, right? All this is really just a recruiting thing for when I put on my own PR show. Exactly. So if I can take your business cards, I'll
Yeah, but then you're gonna retire.
I'm gonna be tired again. That's all that means. That's all. How's it going? Good. How are you?
Welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. I want to give you a few Live Now looks around the country. Of course, we're continuing to monitor this feed out of Washington, D.C. The Department of Justice, of course, potential indictments coming down. We'll see where those lead or do not lead today. Or later on. Of course, we are kind of on standby for this. We've seen it multiple times in the past, both in New York and also there in Florida around classified documents and also business records there with the former president. We will continue to monitor this with all of our Fox associates out there. Another live look at our nation's capital as the Congress is kind of on a summer break, an August break here as we begin the month there. Certainly something we're going to continue to follow is going to be a little bit quieter amongst the halls of Capitol Hill. Moving on. Of course, we also watched overnight the U.S. women's national team moving on thanks to a 0-0 draw against Portugal, and certainly some tense moments down the stretch early in the morning as many watched till 4 or 5 in the morning. A 0-0, a 0-0 draw. A point sends the U.S. through the round of 16. The next stop is Melbourne, but there is plenty of criticism around the country for that performance as they will set up a tough matchup against Sweden, likely in the round of 16. For more on this, let's go out to my conversation I had with Washington Post reporter Thomas Floyd earlier about this and what it could mean moving forward, how much confidence this team has as they try to claim a third straight Women's World Cup. Here on Live and Now from Fox, discussing all the top headlines of the day. Of course, the Women's World Cup, survive and advance, something you don't usually hear with the United States women's national team, and that's exactly what they did early this morning in a 0-0 draw to Portugal. It was not pretty. We're going to be joined by Thomas Floyd, their Washington Post reporter. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. It was some tense moments down the stretch in this match. They do advance, but maybe how good do they feel, this team, heading into those next rounds, the knockout stage?
I think there is a lot of concern, a lot of anxiety around this U.S. team. This is a squad that entered the tournament as the two-time defending champion. This is a squad that entered the tournament as the #1 ranked team in the world. And although they have not lost a match, they have only conceded 1 goal. There are certain statistics you can look at that make it seem like this has been, a decent enough performance by the U.S. The reality is they are not living up to expectations, which admittedly are sky high considering the historic success of this program. And after that disappointing result against Portugal in the final group stage game, they now advance as the group runner-up and therefore face a much more difficult path to the World Cup final because of the seeding in that tournament. So it's been a tough start to the World Cup for the U.S.
And I think a lot of people that stayed up to watch that match early this morning on Fox may be disappointed because 0-0 all the way to the end, and it almost looked like Portugal controlled much of the pace of the game. And if they had lost, they would have been out of this tournament. Maybe how much of a reset button can there be, knowing you're just coming off maybe the worst performance in quite some time for this U.S. women's national team?
If I'm going to look at this as an optimist, I look back to the 2015 World Cup when the U.S. had a fairly underwhelming group stage. Had a draw in there, a 0-0 against Sweden that was somewhat similar to this matchup, and some other performances that left something to be desired. And that U.S. team found its rhythm in the knockout stage, made some tactical changes, made some lineup changes, and won the whole thing. And I think that is the blueprint for Vlatko Andonovski, the U.S. coach, to take stock of what he has learned in these group stage games and maybe make some adjustments, maybe make a change in formation, maybe bring a new player or two into the fold who hasn't seen much playing time in the group stage. So again, if you're looking at this glass half full, perhaps these matches were a reality check that allows the U.S. to iron out the wrinkles with those group stage matches, as opposed to falling short in the knockout stage when it really matters.
Yeah, and if they continue on and certainly win some matches, people will forget about that Portugal match, maybe just as a learning one. But if they get knocked out a little bit earlier, people may point back to it. I do have to ask you that because you mentioned the tactics of it, maybe changing a formation, changing some pieces in there. Maybe how much is that going to be a factor? Do you think it's more maybe tactics or maybe, shall I say, like motivation, this team playing a little fiery, more fiery than they did? Which one do you think needs to change more heading into this knockout round?
I certainly think both are a factor. I would lean more toward the tactics. I think these are professionals who will they will rise to the occasion and play with passion in a knockout round game. I just have a hard time seeing someone like an Alex Morgan or Lindsey Horan not playing with the requisite amount of desire to put on a good performance in the knockout round. I do think tactically there were some shortcomings with this U.S. team, particularly with the 4-3-3 formation they have been using. You know, not to get too into the weeds with it, but this is a team that has dealt with a lot of injuries, and I think in the build-up to this World Cup was expecting to have someone like Mallory Swanson on the right flank who was going to be a game changer, was expecting to have Becky Sauerbrunn holding down the back line. And without those players, both of whom were out injured, it's really been a learning process for the U.S. team to try a different alignment, try some different players. And I think what we've seen is that the group stage formation, the group stage lineups that Vlatko Andonovski has landed on haven't quite worked. And maybe this is an opportunity to try something else in the knockout round.
Yeah, the learning curve may get a little bit steeper against what is likely to be Sweden, a very tough opponent as they finish the runner-up. They're facing the winner of that group. Maybe what do we see in the future for this matchup? How tough of a matchup could it be for the reigning two-time champs?
Well, Sweden is ranked third in the world, silver medalist at the most recent Olympics. Going back a little further, 2016 Olympics, they knocked out the U.S. in the quarterfinals, giving the U.S. its earliest ever Olympic exit. So the U.S. program knows what the Sweden national team is capable of. They will not take this matchup lightly. And